Settle in and let the room be enough. Feel the surface beneath you doing its quiet job, holding your weight without asking anything in return. If it helps, rest one hand over your heart and the other on your belly, letting the breath rise to meet your palms and fall away again without effort. No performance required. This time is not about chasing more. It's about teaching your nervous system to recognize what already supports you and to grow from that recognition, inch by ordinary inch. Let your eyes soften or close. Name nothing, judge nothing. Just nothing, just notice one neutral sensation. The coolness of air touching the tip of your nose, the warm pocket near your collarbone, the steadying heaviness of your legs. Take a gentle breath in to a count that feels comfortable, and let it dissolve a little longer on the way out. Once more, slow in, slower out. That longer exhale tells your body a simple truth, safe enough to learn. People hear abundance and imagine fireworks, sudden windfalls, dramatic turns, glittering loud. Neural abundance begins quietly. It begins with safety. When your body senses threat, attention narrows and options collapse into extremes. When your body senses safety, the world widens. You remember the person who can help, the skill you can practice. The next step that is small enough to take tonight. Safety is not a mood, it is a physiological doorway. When you step through, intelligence that was always yours becomes usable again. To raise a tiny gatekeeper in your brain that decides what gets through the flood of stimuli. Your reticular activating system. It listens for whatever you rehearse. Feed it the line, "Today's never enough," and it will highlight shortages and delays. Offer it, "Today's a next step," and it begins finding one. A sentence in an article you would have skimmed past. A name that pops up twice in a day. An email you suddenly feel ready to send. You're not hypnotizing yourself into fantasy. You're tuning a filter that was built to serve your priorities. On the next exhale, whisper inwardly, "I'm training my brain to notice what supports me." If that feels too bright, soften it, "I'm willing to notice what supports me." Let the words ride the long breath out, not as a command, but as a direction, like turning a dimmer switch toward warm light. Imagine now that your mind is a clean, lit workbench. The tools are simple and close at hand. Attention is one of them. Where it rests, growth follows. You don't need heroic focus, only frequent nudges in the right direction. State is another. If your body is dialed to hurry, even wise plans slide off. You practice downshifts on purpose. A jaw that unclenches, a gaze that softens, 2 breaths with longer exhales. Story is the third. Beneath every action is a sentence you've learned to repeat about who you are. Many of those lines once protected you. When they become heavy, you set them down and speak fresher ones. Your body can believe, gently, consistently, until they feel native. Picture a version of you 1 year from now. Not a movie star or a lottery winner, just you. More resourced. Mornings begin a few minutes earlier and somehow feel less rushed. Your inbox needs fewer apologies. A small cushion sits quietly in your account. You've added a skill that people value, and you touch it once or twice each week. When a surprise bill appears, your breath stays steady. You still feel everything, but you meet it from the ground rather than the ledge. Hold that image just long enough to taste its texture. Capable, steady, unsurprised. Then let the picture dissolve and keep the feeling, like sunlight warming the bones after a passing cloud. Now lower the bar on purpose and choose 1 inch of friction you can smooth tonight. Not your whole life, a single inch. The glass of water that never seems to make it to your nightstand can arrive there now. The 5 oldest emails you'll never answer can be archived. The password that steals 10 minutes can be written, secured, and placed where you'll reach for it without thinking. The shirt for tomorrow can rest on the chair. Small frictions steal quiet and time. Small removals give both back. You don't need a new personality. You need fewer sand grains in the gears. Let your breathing find its own rhythm again. Invite your attention to sweep gently across the day and catch 1 proof of support. Not a miracle, just a true assist. The bus that arrived as you turned the corner, the tutorial that answered your exact question, a friend's message, even if short. Landing when you needed to remember you're not alone. Name it in your mind and offer a soft reply. More of this, please. You're not bargaining with the universe. You're training your filter to highlight patterns that nourish you. Lucky fluke. Don't count on it. Thank it for trying to keep you safe. Fear prefers known discomfort to unknown ease. You can honor the guard at the door and still walk past. Return to a longer exhale. Return to the sentence. I'm training my brain to notice what supports me. The sentence is a compass, not a verdict. Point it in the same direction often enough, and your steps begin aligning without fanfare. There is a gentle sequence you can carry into sleep. You glance around and internally name what you see, allowing the room to be simple and sufficient. You feel one neutral sensation and let it hold your attention for a few breaths. You lengthen the exhale and let your shoulders follow. You speak the sentence that tunes your filter. You name one proof of support and ask for a little more of that shape tomorrow. It's the same door each night, easy on its hinges, familiar to the hand, in the dark. Bring your hand back to your chest and notice the press of your palm against the steady rhythm underneath. That rhythm is permission. Permission to move slower than your fear prefers, because consistency outruns urgency. Permission to repeat small good things until they're boring, because boredom is often the first sign that a habit has taken root. Permission to let boring compound into beautiful, because that is how gardens grow, and how bank accounts thicken, and how confidence returns. Quietly, then, obviously, nothing needs conquering this evening. You are not behind. The workbench is tidy. The tools are close. Your filter is listening and will keep listening while you sleep. Opportunities do not only belong to the loudest rooms, they belong to the most receptive systems. You are becoming one. Feel the exhale lengthen just a breath more. Let the thoughts of the day float up and away like snow shaken loose from branches. In the clearing they leave, there is room for what you'll notice tomorrow. The next small support, the next inch of friction removed, the next ordinary step that turns out not to be ordinary at all. For now, that is enough. Let the lights in the workshop dim themselves. Let the door slip closed without effort. Trust that when you open it in the morning, the tools will be where you left them, and your mind, like a well-trained doorman, will be waiting for your cue. As you drift, your brain keeps working kindly on your behalf. While you sleep, it replays small moments from the day, strengthening paths that you walked more than once, and pruning the ones that no longer serve you. It files away what mattered and washes the rest into the background. That is not magic, it's maintenance. When your choices are simple and repeatable, your brain stamps them with a quiet, "Do this again." Tonight is a good night to give it a few gentle scenes to practice. Picture a morning with no rush in its bones. You reach for the same glass of water that you placed within easy reach. You open a document that already has a title, so there is nothing to decide. Only a single sentence to add. After that sentence, you stand, breathe, and close the tab. The action is small on purpose. Brains don't fall in love with intensity. They fall in love with consistency. Each time you show up at a task and leave a breadcrumb for the next visit, you teach your nervous system that progress is safe to pursue and easy to resume. To read an old saying in neuroscience, softened for bedside use. The paths you walk become paths you prefer. When attention and emotion arrive together, the brain marks the moment as important. It's why fear memories feel sticky, but that stickiness belongs to good things too. When you let yourself register even a modest win, a completed paragraph, a paid bill, a thoughtful note sent, you release a small this mattered signal that says again, please. You don't need fireworks, you need honest recognition. A simple nod is enough. That nod is a lever. If the word abundance is felt slippery or showy, let's make it plain. Abundance is options. Options arrive when you reduce friction, learn useful things, and connect with people kindly and clearly. Options multiply when you can see them. Your brain is a prediction machine. It compares what you expect to what actually happens, and the gap between the two is a teaching signal. If you expect nothing to help, and something does, that gap is gold. It tells the filter, pay more attention here. So you harvest small evidence. You let it count. The bus that made you on time. The message that answered your question. The tutorial that saved you an hour. Not as decoration, but as data. This is how a nervous system that learns scarcity can learn possibility without being forced or fooled. Sometimes the tightness you carry is not about money or work at all. It's about early rules you were taught to survive. Rules like don't ask, don't need, don't be seen, or even earn every kindness twice. Those rules were brilliant for the rooms they were written in. If they feel heavy now, you can thank them and update them. Bring one of those old lines to mind for a moment while you feel the weight of your body and the length of your exhale. Safety first, then the rewrite. Offer a quieter line that your body can accept. I can ask with respect. I can be seen in small ways. I can let help land. Memory changes most easily when it is calm and being gently revised. You don't argue with the past. You give your present brain a better rule to practice. You can also design the world to help you, not with grand redesigns, but with handles where you need them. The file you open most can live on your desktop. The link you hunt for can sit at the top of the bookmarks bar. The bag that traps your mornings can be packed before your evening teeth are brushed. This is not about self-control. It is about self-permission. You are allowed to make the likely thing the easy thing. The brain loves what is easy to start and satisfying to finish. Give it both, skills or seeds. You don't plant a forest in a night. You plant minutes in many mornings. Choose one skill that makes you more useful to the people you serve. Writing a clearer email, shaping a spreadsheet cleanly, tuning a sentence for clarity, nudging a design to be more human, debugging the same class of error that has slowed you twice. Touch it most days, even for 10 minutes. The important part is not the size of the daily step. It is the unfair compounding of repetition. After a few quiet months, other people start to feel your new ease before you do. That feeling is reputation. Reputation is an option factory. Relationships compound too. You don't have to network. You can simply be generous on schedule. Once in a while, send a short, sincere note that says, I appreciate how you do X, or this resource made me think of you. You're not trading favors. You are making small deposits in the world you want to live in. One where people are seen and signals are answered. When the time comes to ask for a reference, a conversation, a reality check on your rates, that ask will not be a cold call. It will be a continuation. Money can stay steady when shame steps aside. If numbers make your throat tighten, we will meet them in a softer room. Imagine looking at your accounts the way you would step into a quiet library. No judgment is allowed past the door. Only curiosity. You glance at the shelves once a week, at roughly the same time, and read the labels. What went out? What surprised you? You move one number a little in your favor? A subscription you don't use? A small transfer out of sight? A tiny automatic buffer that grows whether you watch it or not? You don't punish. You adjust over time. That quiet attention is what turns money from a source of static into a source of signal. If you sell your time or your craft, there is a sentence that opens rooms. Is there any flexibility here? You can imagine saying it with a steady breath and a relaxed jaw. No drama, no threat. You're simply checking the edges of the box you've been handed. Often the box is larger than it looks. If it isn't, you've learned where it ends and can choose your next move with eyes open. That too is abundance, a clear map, even when the streets are narrow. Some patterns that look like laziness are really protection. Perfectionism is often a shield against being judged. Procrastination is often a pause until your body feels safe enough to begin. Safety, then start. The trick is to make the starting point so small that it doesn't trigger your guard. Open the file, write the date, name the task with a verb and a noun. Stop. If momentum shows up, fine. If not, you've still taught your brain that beginning doesn't hurt. Do that most days, and the guard will take longer breaks. There's a bedtime rehearsal that helps tomorrow's brain carry a lighter load. Before sleep, imagine the first 2 moves of your next work block as if you were filming a close. Up your hand clicking the same icon, your eyes landing on the first line, your fingers typing a title you've already chosen. Then visualize the third move, the stop. See yourself standing, sipping water, letting your eyes rest on something distant. Starting and stopping cleanly is a kindness to your attention. It prevents the frayed edges that make effort feel bigger than it is. You are allowed to prize time the way others prize money. Time wealth looks like margin on your calendar and slack in your schedule. It grows when you undercommit by a notch, batch small tasks into one contained window, and protect a simple, boring block for deep work, even if that block is only 25 minutes. The point is not heroic output. The point is a pattern your nervous system trusts so much that it stops bracing. When bracing fades, creativity returns. Let your mind walk through a day a few weeks from now. You wake without an alarm more days than not. The first 10 minutes belong to you. You move your body just enough to turn the lights on. You touch the skill. You're growing. You send one note that helps someone else feel less alone. You meet your numbers with the same calm you bring to your breath. You set one tiny trap for friction and spring it. You end before you are empty. It's not a movie. It's a rhythm. People notice rhythms. Life responds to them. If a wave of doubt surfaces, too simple, too slow, acknowledge it. Fast has often hurt you. Slow can hold you. Brains reorganize with repetition, not with drama. Nervous systems choose the path of least resistance. You are building a path that leads where you want to go and making it the path of least resistance. That is strategy. That is care. Before this night closes, bring to mind one resource you already have that many would call wealth. A mentor's name in your phone. A library card, stable access to the internet. A craft you can practice anywhere. A body that learns. A neighborhood where you can walk in the morning air. Let yourself feel the quiet sufficiency of that resource. Then, choose one place to point it tomorrow, not a lifetime promise. A single nudge, let the breath lengthen again on the way out. Feel your jaw relax and your tongue soften from the roof of your mouth. Imagine your brain filing tonight's scenes under safe to repeat. The filter knows what to look for when you wake. One small proof of support, 1 inch of friction to remove, 1 living skill to practice, 1 human to treat with gentle competence, including yourself. The rest can arrive in its time. The room is still doing its quiet job. The ground is still holding you. Your mind has new instructions, and they are kind. Let sleep do its part now, stamping the helpful, shelving the noise, weaving small options into stronger ones. When morning comes, you won't need a speech. You'll need a sip of water, a steady exhale, and the next right inch. And when that inch is done, you get a second for free. The mind loves momentum because it lowers the cost of coming back. A morning that begins with one tiny kept promise builds a quiet pressure toward the next. It's not the size of the promise that matters to your nervous system. It's the kept part. Kept promises teach safety. Safety unlocks focus. Focus lets you hear what matters beneath the noise. As daylight moves through the windows of your day, you will notice how attention tries to scatter. That's not failure. It's physics and biology. Bright objects attract, uncertain tasks repel. You can make a simple trade with yourself. Put a fence around one small stretch of deep work, and let the rest of the day be as ordinary as it wants. In that fence stretch, you ask less of yourself and get more. You don't aim for brilliance, you aim for contact. Fingers on keys, eyes on the line, mind on the one problem you chose on purpose. When your attention slips, you don't wrestle it, you guide it back with the calm of someone leading a friendly dog on a leash. This is the tone that turns effort from a threat into a place to rest. There will be days when something breaks your rhythm. A call you didn't expect. A mood that arrives without a reason. The heavy weather of a headline you wish you hadn't seen. On those days, the work is smaller and somehow more important. You take the shape of the day and carve a notch for yourself anyway. It might be only a paragraph, a sketch, a clean bill paid, a single email sent with kindness instead of speed. The point is not output. The point is agency. Each notch is a reminder that even in a storm, you still have a hand on the wheel. When money or opportunity start to feel like a tight doorway, widen the frame. Options rarely appear when you stare straight at the stuck part. They appear when you turn a shoulder and look for edges. Can this be scoped smaller and delivered sooner? Can this be repackaged for the person who needs it most, not the person you hoped would? Can the same skill wear a different outfit? A guide becomes a checklist becomes a short call. The brain is generous with patterns when it is not being judged. Let it play, let it try on shapes until one clicks into place with that soft internal. Yes, practice asking better questions, not only of others but of yourself. What would make this easier to start? What is the smallest outcome that would still count? These questions aren't tricks, they are keys. Each one unlocks a door in the task that felt welded shut. When the door moves even a millimeter, the nervous system learns that the door was a door, not a wall. That lesson, repeated, becomes a new default. You may notice old voices rising when goals appear. They speak in absolutes and deadlines, and all. Nothing deals. They were taught by teachers who measured only the test and bosses who respected only the sprint. You can thank them for their enthusiasm and invite them to sit quietly while you build something more durable than a surge. Durability is a kind pace, a boring setup, and a willingness to repeat the same useful moves until they feel natural. Natural is where excellence hides. It looks like ease from the outside, but inside it is the echo of thousands of gentle reps. Connection carries value across time in ways that talent cannot. A short, sincere reply is a bridge. A clear promise kept is a bridge. A no that arrives quickly and kindly is a bridge too. People remember how you make decisions because it helps them predict the next exchange. Predictability is a gift in a world that startles so easily. When you build it, you become someone others want to orbit. Not because you dazzle them, but because you steady them. That steadiness is its own form of wealth. If you create things, let them live where they can be found without you. Put your name on a page that holds a handful of your best and newest work. Tidy the edges. Add a simple way to say hello. Visit that page like a gardener walks a path, pulling a small weed here, adding a small bloom there. Most success arrives not because a single piece goes viral, but because a clear path exists for the next person who whispers your name to someone else. Your future clients are busy and tired. Make the yes easy to spot and easy to say. There is a quiet calculus that turns effort into trust. It begins with telling the truth about time. If something will take you 2 weeks, do not promise it in 3 days. You are not a magician, you are an artisan. Artisans keep calendars that match their bodies. They protect the mornings that feed them and batch the errands that drain them. They leave white space because life will write in it. That margin is not laziness. It is respect for reality and a gift to the person who will receive your work when you are not hurried and hard. When numbers are involved, think like a lighthouse, not a siren. Sirens panic, lighthouses guide. You can keep a single, simple dashboard in view. What you own, what you owe, what is growing, what is leaking. You do not need to watch the waves all day. You set a time to scan, you adjust one dial, and you return to the work that creates the signal in the first place. The lighthouse doesn't control the ocean. It shines where it can be seen, so good ships can make good choices. If your body needs a say, and it always does, let it speak in the smallest languages. A glass of water within reach before you need it. A stretch when your spine asks. A walk around the block so your eyes can land on something far away. These are not side quests. They are the platforms your mind stands on. Productivity, built with your biology, is cheap and resilient. You will feel the difference as a softness at the edges of difficult tasks. When you meet envy, treat it as a compass, not a verdict. Envy is a map of what you value that you have not yet allowed yourself to want. Trace the line back to the skill, the freedom, or the audience that stirred you. Then ask what the smallest step toward that thing might look like in your own vocabulary, in your own schedule, with your own constraints. Envy that becomes a plan stops biting. It starts pointing. There will be negotiations, with clients, with employers, with family, with yourself. Learn the shape of a sentence that keeps doors open. It sounds like curiosity more than pressure. It sounds like, what would make this a clear win for both of us? It sounds like, here are two versions I can happily deliver. Which serves you better? It sounds like, if X is fixed, could Y be flexible? These shapes don't guarantee the outcome, but they widen the corridor between 0 and yes. In wide corridors, people walk relaxed. Relaxed people choose well. Creativity loves constraints that are chosen and hates constraints that are hidden. Reveal them. Name the budget, the time box, the non-negotiables. Then set one constraint that is generous, a longer runway, a simpler scope, a clearer standard. Inside that set, you will find play, and play is not frivolous. Play is the mind rehearsing solutions without the cost of failure. When you allow it, you'll get ideas that work in the wild, not only on paper. If you'll carry a story that you are late, remember that brains and lives don't bloom on the same calendar. Seeds that look dormant are often growing roots. Roots are invisible, which makes patience feel foolish. It isn't. The longer the roots, the less the wind can take from you when you finally rise above the soil. Trust the boring months. Trust the seasons, where you are mostly learning and quietly installing better defaults. That work cashes out all at once and feels like luck to people who were not there to see the planting. Every so often, give yourself a small ceremony of completion. Close the laptop with intention. Tidy the physical space where your work body lives. Whisper a thank you to your past self for showing up and your future self for inheriting the benefits. These micro endings teach your mind that rest is part of the loop, not the absence of it. Rest is where patterns consolidate and identity knits to behavior. Without rest, effort floats away. With rest, effort sinks in. And now, as the room breathes with you, imagine a version of you 6 months older sitting at the same desk, on the same gentle light. Watch how they move. Notice the absence of certain frictions. Notice the presence of a few new paths, worn smooth by use. They are not louder or more intense. They are kinder to their future and strangely bolder because of it. That boldness looks like making clear offers. It looks like declining mismatches. It looks like shipping on time and speaking plainly. You can feel it because you taught their brain, day by day, to prefer clarity over drama. Keep letting small truths collect. You do better work when you begin before you feel ready. You recover faster when you stop before you are empty. You are more trusted when your estimates match reality. You grow faster when you choose a narrow hallway and walk it daily. You are more at peace when your money has a folder labeled boring. You are richer when your calendar has air. These aren't slogans. They are levers. Pull any one of them and the machine shifts in your favor. If a part of you worries that abundance will turn you into someone you don't want to be, real abundance amplifies your better instincts. It makes generosity less costly. It makes boundaries less brittle. It turns desperation into discernment. You don't become someone else. You become more available to the parts of you that were waiting for breath and room. Let the day you want to live arrive 1 inch at a time. Set down gently, where you can step on it in the shoes you already own. Let the brain you have learned to love the moves that serve you. Let repetition handle the heavy lifting. Let small wins count. Let help land. Let your future self inherit a life that feels designed on purpose for the person you are becoming. And as the edges of thought soften and the body reclines deeper into the surface, holding it, keep one final image near. A path through a familiar wood, packed by your own footsteps. Each morning adds one pass. Each evening smooths one stone. The path doesn't brag, and it doesn't rush. It simply leads where you've chosen, cutting a gentle line through the undergrowth, until even on foggy days your feet find it without looking. That is neural wealth. That is abundance. As a posture, that is the quiet fortune of a life built by many kind, repeated moves. And it is yours to keep practicing as you drift into the soft, instructive dark. Keep walking that path in your mind and notice how the forest responds. When you pass the same bend enough times, the brambles stop trying to reclaim it. Your brain is the same. Neural pathways compete softly. The ones you touch with attention and small action thicken. The ones you starve of rehearsal go quiet. Scarcity scripts don't need to be defeated in one dramatic battle. They need to be ignored, bypassed, and replaced by a dozen friendly detours that are easier to take than the old road. One friendly detour is environment. The brain believes the room, a glass already filled on the desk, tells a different hydration story than an empty bottle in a cabinet. A single open document, named for the one task you care about, tells a different focus story than a dozen tabs, flaring like fireworks. Put the tools you want to use within reach. Put the temptations you want to avoid in a drawer, or in another room, or behind a password you don't remember by heart. Every inch of friction you add to an unhelpful behavior makes it rarer. Every inch of ease you add to a helpful behavior makes it natural. Wealth, in this sense, is a geography you arrange to keep your future self company. Another detour is language. Words aim the nervous system. When you call something impossible, your brain saves energy by not trying. When you call it unfamiliar, your brain gets curious. Try soft edits. Imbad with money becomes building a money system. I procrastinate becomes I protect starts. Then I continue. The sentences are small, but they reset the slider from identity to behavior. Behavior is easier to move than identity, and identity follows where repetition leads. Let money become a series of gentle rhythms instead of a monthly spike of adrenaline. You can make a little choreography that mostly runs without inflows gather in one place. A slice drifts to the bills that keep your life lit and warm. A slice drifts to your future, labeled by purpose, so your brain can picture it. A slice drifts to play, because play keeps the human inside the plan. The amounts can be modest. The power is in the automating. When you remove decision from what should be routine, you preserve decision for what should be art. You don't need to watch numbers all day to be a good steward. Choose a time that feels unthreatening. Light a candle or make tea. Glance at 4 friendly signals: what you own, what you owe, what is growing, what is leaking. Adjust one dial. Celebrate one steady line. Close the ritual. Done well? This becomes less like an audit and more like gardening. You aren't judging the plant for not being a tree. You are giving it water, light, and room to climb. Let generosity be small and frequent enough that it doesn't scare your nervous system. A kind review for someone whose work you admire. An introduction that shortens 2 people's paths. A resource shared without expectation. These gestures are not mystical, they are mechanical. They expand your surface area for luck by putting your name in conversations you're not in. They also warm your own sense of sufficiency. A brain that experiences itself as a giver relaxes its grip on hoarding. Practice tiny exposures to the outcomes you want, so they stop feeling like foreign countries. If speaking on a stage freezes you, read a paragraph aloud into your phone and listen back while you fold laundry. If pricing your work makes your voice shake, say your number in the mirror 3 times at breakfast until your throat stops treating it like a sneeze. Desensitization can be gentle. The goal isn't bravery in the abstract. It's familiarity on contact. When offers and asks are involved, remember that price is a story about scope, risk, and care. Tell that story calmly. Translate your effort into outcomes they actually want. Saved hours, fewer escalations, clearer decisions, a posture that helps them sleep. Name the constraints you honor, name the moments you'll signal. Invite collaboration on the trade. Offs, you are not auditioning for permission. You are inviting a fit. Fits don't require adrenaline. They require clarity and room to breathe. Make a small pact with yourself about failure. Failure is not a verdict. It is a draft with comments. Decide in advance how you will absorb the next wobble. A simple template helps. What did I try? What did I notice? What will I try next? What can I reuse? What can I refuse? Do this with the tenderness of a coach who wants you in the game next week. The brain repairs faster when errors are encoded as data, not drama. Luck grows where signals are visible. Let your work leave breadcrumbs. A short note about a technique that saved you an hour. A sketch that explains a concept you wish you'd had last year. A tiny case study that shows a before and after in real numbers. These fragments are lanterns along your path. People don't need a billboard. They need enough light to take a step toward you. Build a second brain that feels like a small drawer. Not a warehouse. Capture only what has a place to land. Sort it into simple shells, labeled by verbs you actually perform. Write, teach, ship, sell. Decide. When you open a shelf, you should see usable blocks, not a museum of quotes. This is how knowledge becomes inventory. Inventory, even intellectual inventory, is a form of wealth. It lets you assemble faster than you can invent on demand. Tend your attention like it earns interest, because it does. The work that compounds is rarely urgent and rarely loud. It hides in quiet recurring slots on your calendar. A weekly review that fits on a single page. A 2-hour build block where your phone sits in another room. A recurring stroll where you rehearse a story out loud until it fits in one breath. These are unglamorous appointments with your future. Keep enough of them, and your life becomes strangely predictable in the best way. When rest arrives, let it. Sleep is not a reward. It is a factory. Memory consolidates. Hormones balance. Immune cells do their quiet rounds. While you drift, your brain replays tiny victories and files them under safe to repeat. This is not laziness. It's maintenance. The machines that run hot without service break early and loudly. You are not a machine. You are an ecosystem. Ecosystems thrive on cycles. If anxiety visits at the threshold of sleep, give it a job too small to fail. Count breaths backward from a number that pleases you. Lengthen the exhale by a whisper. Let the attention rest at the edges of your nostrils. Nod at them, the way you nod at neighbors, and return to the breath as if it were a porch light you like. The body notices this pattern and follows. Shoulders drop, jaw unlocks. The day loosens its grip like a knot soaking in warm water. Your relationships are part of your net worth, even when no money changes hands. Invest in predictability and repair. Say when you'll be there and be there. Say when you won't and be early with that news. When harm happens, as it does in human places, move toward the bruise with curiosity and a clean apology that doesn't ask to be comforted in return. This is not a moral sermon, it's an operating manual for durable alliances. Durable alliances catch you when markets move, when health wobbles, when plans need to be rewritten overnight. Let your definition of abundance include time you do not monetize, rooms where you do not perform, and people with whom you do not optimize a thing. Freedom is not merely more options, it's fewer compulsions. Choose a few rituals that anchor you to the version of you that money cannot buy. A walk at dusk, a song your hands remember on a table, a meal you cook slowly for someone who laughs easily in your kitchen. These are not extras. They are ballast. If the past raises its hand with an old contract, familial patterns, inherited panic, early lessons delivered too sharply, you can acknowledge the teacher without letting it run the class. You are not obligated to reenact what hurt you to prove you learned from it. Learning looks different now. It looks like choosing a smaller dose and noticing you stay steady. It looks like saying, that was then. I'm designing for this version of me. Brains change. The maps can be redrawn. Create tiny safety nets that make boldness cheaper. A 3-sentence contingency plan for the project that might stall. A week's worth of simple meals in the freezer, so a deadline doesn't negotiate against your body. A small fund that exists only to buy you time when you need to say no to a misfit. Yes, boldness isn't the absence of fear, it's the presence of alternatives. There is a pace at which you become easier to help. It begins when your requests are specific, your updates are honest, and your thanks are quick. It continues when you keep artifacts tidy so collaborators can join midstream without drowning. It matures when you return the favor, before anyone asks. People like to help people who won't make them guess. That clarity is attractive. It multiplies your reach without multiplying your hours. Notice how often you already have enough. Enough is a moving target if you never pause to feel it land. Give yourself moments where the chase is suspended and sufficiency is allowed in the room. Not forever, just long enough for your nervous system to register that survival isn't on trial. From that state, your decisions get kinder and, paradoxically, braver. Fear buys speed. Safety buys perspective. Perspective is how you pick the right mountain before you climb it. Now, let the room quiet even more. Feel the body remembering how to be heavy. The future you've been rehearsing is not a lottery ticket. It is the byproduct of gentle, repeated agreements with yourself and your environment. You show up and the path shows up. You rest and the pattern sinks in. You offer the world something steady, and the world offers you something steady back. It won't be perfect, and it doesn't have to be. It only has to be honest and repeated and kind. Somewhere ahead, your life will look ordinary to the people outside it and deeply fortunate to the person inside it. That is the contour you are shaping tonight. Not a spectacle, a hum, a reliable rhythm that funds your needs, feeds your people, leaves room for wonder, and gives the nervous system a place to land. Keep that hum in your chest as your breath lengthens and your eyes grow warm at the edges. You have done enough for now. The path will still be there in the morning, a little more packed, a little clearer underfoot. Let the forest go dark around you in the sweetest way, the way that tells the animals it is safe to sleep. Let the body sink and the brain file away what it wants to keep. Abundance is not somewhere else. It is this softness, this order, this gentle confidence that you can meet the day you designed. One kept promise at a time, and as that softness settles, picture a small ledger in your mind, closing with a quiet clip, not a record of debts and dues, but of promises kept today. 2 or 3 are plenty. Your brain notices completion and tags it as safe to repeat. Tomorrow, it will look for the same feeling and steer you gently toward actions that recreate it. This is not motivation as thunder. It is weather you can count on, morning fog that lifts because the sun always does. If thoughts return like restless birds, give them a simple perch. Whisper, not now, but thank you, and let them alight on a branch, labeled later. Later has a container. Later is not exile. It's a shelf with a small label and a time you trust. The nervous system softens when it believes you will come back for what matters. Safety is not the absence of problems. It is the presence of a plan. Somewhere nearby, your future self is tidying the path you prepared. They are not larger than life. They're ordinary, rested, and consistent. They keep short appointments with their money and shorter quarrels with their past. They have fewer tabs open in the browser and more open space in the calendar. They say yes to less so they can say yes for longer. They eat from bowls that belong to the kitchen they already have. They do not wait for perfect. They wait for water to boil and make what feeds them. Imagine how they begin a day. There's their first quiet check. And before the world asks for anything, it might be a sentence on paper. What one thing moves the story forward? It might be a brief scan. What is mine, what is not? It might be a single decision made while the tea steeps. This goes on the calendar. This goes in a drawer. This goes away. The brain delights in small beginnings that finish. Finish something tiny early, and the circuitry that loves closure wakes up and looks for more. When numbers reappear in your mind, let them speak in pairs that soothe rather than scare. Not giant goals, but gentle ratios. A little for now, a little for near, a little for later, a little for joy. The exact amounts are less important than the consistency of the rhythm. Rhythms are how bodies believe stories. A pace you can keep is richer than a sprint you abandon. In finances as in breath, if shame tries to narrate, swap it for honesty without verdicts. Here is what happened. Here is what I'm trying next. Your brain records these lines as coordinates, not confessions. Coordinates let you move. Every experiment becomes a breadcrumb instead of a bruise. And with enough breadcrumbs, the woods stop feeling like a trial and start feeling like a place you know. When comparison knocks, answer with context. Other people's numbers are written in currencies you cannot see. Health, help, history. You don't need their exchange rates to be okay right now. You need a clear view of your own trail markers. Bills paid without panic. Hours that felt like yours. a project that got braver, a boundary that held. These are wealth, not metaphorical wealth. Actual stores of energy you can spend tomorrow without debt against your nervous system. Let your home conspire with you. A small tray by the door becomes a net that catches daily chaos. A single shelf holds the tools that make revenue happen. A charging station outside the bedroom becomes a moat your attention can cross in the morning instead of drowning in the night. These are not decor choices. They are neuro, economics, and wood and fabric. You're building a habitat that pays you back in calm. Your work can conspire too. Turn what you know into pieces that live longer than the day you made them. A template that saves your client 10 emails. A page that answers questions before they form. A tiny lesson someone can share without you. Assets, even small ones, accumulate like rain barrels. When the weather shifts, you're still watered. Price with a steady hand, not to impress, but to promise. A price is a boundary that says, here is the care you will receive. Here is the risk I will hold. Here is the margin that lets me deliver without breaking. Scarcity will ask you to apologize. Don't. Apologies are for harm, not for the math that keeps your work humane. Notice the first seconds of tension in your body when you approach money tasks. Where does it land? Throat, chest, belly, fingertips. Invite breath there like warm cloth. 3 inhales that find the edges. 3 exhales that lengthen by account. Sensation is a dashboard, not a judge. When the lights blink, you don't scold the car. You pull over, listen, proceed. This is how you keep moving without burning the engine. You may remember a season when everything was urgent, when inboxes braided with alarms and meals were negotiations. The nervous system learned a lot then, mostly about sirens. Tonight, you are teaching it a slower song. The melody goes like this. One thing at a time is enough. One friction removed buys back an hour. One conversation held earlier prevents 3 repairs later. Keep humming. Let income be plural, even if each stream is a trickle. A quiet retainer that pays in predictability. A small product that sells while you sleep. A service you deliver deeply, but not daily. This is not hustle. It is diversification at a human scale. It's a stool with more than one leg, so you can sit without balancing constantly. And when you say no, and you will, to stay whole, say it the way a gate swings shut but doesn't slam. Clear, kind, offering the next available opening or the names of 3 people who might suit, if you truly mean it. Boundaries that respect both parties are bridges that can be crossed later, not walls that have to be climbed. If you carry a family story about money, a drought that lasted years, a windfall that turned to ash, a silence that taught you not to ask, offer it a seat by the fire in your mind. Let it speak, and then thank it for getting you this far with the tools it had. Tell it the tools are different now. Show it the calendar with gentle rhythms, the pantry with simple meals, the ledger with categories that match your real life. Let the old story rest. It has been working too hard for too long. Drift, now, through a small visualization that feeds the circuits you want strong. You are in a room with a long table. On it are the objects that symbolize your quiet wealth. A notebook with finished pages, a key to a place that feels safe, a photo of someone who sleeps well because of work you did, a small stack of invoices marked paid, a calendar with white space, a plant that is thriving because you remembered the light. Touch each one. Feel how ordinary it all is. Ordinary is a miracle you can keep. If fear returns, let it sit at the edge of the table as a consultant with limited hours. Ask it for its top 2 risks and its evidence. Thank it, and then invite your calm to present the mitigations. The cushion you are building one quiet transfer at a time. The insurance you chose, the mutual aid you belong to, the backup plan you wrote when the lights were still on. Fear respects process. It grows noisy when there is none, and quiet when there is enough. When opportunity appears, and it will, because signal attracts signal. Test it against 3 gentle questions. Does this fit my season? Does this pay me in more than money? Does this cost me parts I cannot quickly rebuild? If 2 yeses and 1 honest no appear, you have a map. You can negotiate scope, timeline, or terms until the map and the terrain match closely enough to walk. Let endings be part of your economy. Retire offers that don't fit without bitterness. Archive drafts that taught you what you needed. Off-board clients with care, including a short summary of wins and a graceful next step. Endings done well free energy for beginnings without ghosts. Ghosts are expensive. They charge interest in rumination. As sleep drapes heavier across your shoulders, trust that the brain is already at work, laying myelin on the paths you walk tonight. Tomorrow's choices will feel a hair easier, not by anatomy. Ease is how compounding feels from the inside. Less friction where there used to be grit, less noise where there used to be alarms. You are not racing anyone in this forest. You are learning its roots, naming its clearings, planting a few more markers for those who will follow. That, too, is wealth. Paths you leave behind that make someone else's load lighter. You won't see all the travelers. You don't need to. The forest knows. For now, let the room dim further. Let wrists and ankles grow warm. Let the jaw slacken and the tongue rest heavy in the cradle of the mouth. Let thoughts thin into threads, then mist, then nothing you need to hold. Abundance is not a finish line or a performance. It is this steady breath, this trust in small repairs, this patient stacking of days that feel like yours. The ledger is closed. The path is clear enough. The night is kind. Sleep, and let the work continue without you, as it always does when you have taught it how. By morning, the work has already been rehearsing. Neurons that spoke together last night are a shade closer now, their connection a touch thicker, as if two trails began to braid. You don't need to feel it to trust it. You can help it along with one small welcome, before the phone, before the world. A sentence said softly into the room, "Today, I will keep one promise to myself." Promises are how the brain tags reality as reliable. If a number tries to rush in, offer it a chair and a pencil. Ask it what story it wants to tell. Then listen for the line beneath the noise. Most numbers are asking for rhythm, not drama. They want to know you will visit them on the same day each week, at the same table, with the same cup of something warm. They want you to sort them into 3 baskets your nervous system understands: fuel, future, and free. Not precise categories etched in stone, but containers that say, "I see you, I know where you go." Disorder quiets when things belong. As you move through the day, imagine a small lighthouse behind your eyes, the part of your attention that chooses what to notice. It brightens what you've marked as meaningful and dims what you've marked as noise. Each time you name a quiet win out loud, sent the invoice, chose water, paused before buying, the light turns. Over time, it learns the coastline of abundance, receipts that match your values, minutes that end with air still in your lungs, yeses that do not require apologies to your body. The world has not changed, but your lamp is sweeping the water with new instructions. There will be days when the tide is out, when the inbox feels like pebbles underfoot and every step is small. This is still abundance. The brain loves patterns more than peaks. When you keep the pattern show up, choose one thing, close one loop. You are telling your circuitry, this ship keeps sailing in weather. Trust compounds on that message. Fear, hearing no sirens, grows bored and sits down. Let generosity enter like a draft through a window, not a gust that knocks things over. A note that costs nothing but returns warmth. A tip that fits your season. A recommendation that takes you 3 minutes but saves someone else 3 hours. The nervous system remembers the direction of your giving. It becomes a lane you can merge into without looking twice. Wealth is not a reservoir you stare at. It is a river you keep clean as it passes through. If scarcity taps your shoulder, maybe with a voice that sounds like an old room, fluorescent and humming. Turn your body a few degrees toward what is already growing. A shelf with staples, a client who returned, a morning that began without a rush. Keep a short line of evidence in your pocket, literal or mental. 3 proofs that you are not where you started. Pull it out when the lights flicker. Data calms what stories inflame. When you work, Build rooms for your future self. Put names on files a month. From now, you will understand. Leave notes inside projects, like breadcrumbs. You stopped here because you finished the hardest section. Next, do the small diagram and call it a day. You are not pandering to weakness. You are designing for human attention. Every friction you remove is interest earned. Money arrives in textures. Some is smooth and predictable. The gentle retainer, the subscription that hums. Some is spiky. Launches, one-time gigs, seasonal surges. Treat textures differently. Smooth income can carry foundations, rent, lights, quiet savings. Spiky income can hold upgrades and experiments. When you ask jagged money to behave like glass, it cuts your plans. When you let it be what it is, it becomes a festival you plan for. If an offer appears wearing glitter, ask it to wash its face. Under the sparkle, what is the exchange of energy, time, trust? Will you be prouder of the work after it is done than you are excited about it now? If the answer is shy, it is allowed to be no. There is more ease down the road than there is pressure at the door. Let language work for you. Rename a budget to a map, a debt to a project, a bill to a membership in the lit world. Lights, heat, the quiet hum of the fridge you love, the water that fills the glass you just lifted. Words do not change the math, but they change the body reading it. A calmer body makes better math. The brain likes to see the ball go through the hoop early. Give it a guaranteed layup each morning. 5 invoices reviewed, a $5 transferred to a quiet cushion. 20 minutes on the product that lives after today is over. This is not performance. It is primer. Once a win is registered, your chemistry leans forward instead of away. If you sell as a promise you can keep on a rainy day. Price at the level where you can deliver when you are not at your best. That margin is kindness to your clients and mercy for your nervous system. You are not optimizing a quarter. You are protecting a practice. Gather your team even if it is only you and a calendar. Put on it the rituals that money depends on but chaos erases. A weekly money hour, a monthly check. And with someone you trust, a quarterly pruning of offerings. Put rest on it like rent, non-negotiable, due on the 1st. Rest does not cost, it prevents interest on exhaustion. When interruption visits, and it will, offer it a pen and ask it to write its request. Words cool urgency. If the request is yours, schedule the first 5%. If it is not, move it gently to the riverbank and let the current of someone else's priorities carry it away. Boundaries are not fences lined with thorns. They are clearly painted lines on a shared road. Some evenings, open the drawer where the small proofs live. The kind reply, the patient review. The time you said no and did not crumble. The photo of a room you paid for with your work. The printout of a graph that slopes up only slightly, but refuses to slope down. Hold one piece in your hand and breathe with it for a count of 5. The brain will tag the feeling. Tomorrow, it will look for more of it, the way your eyes find your friend's face in a crowd without thinking. Allow your environment to finish some of your sentences. Keep tools visible for the future you want. A packed gym bag by the door is a story about strength. A stationary bike draped in laundry is a story about delay. A clear desk with a single open task is a story about completion. You are not failing to be disciplined. You are succeeding at being human. Let the room help. There will be months where abundance looks like dignity, not surplus. You will keep your word and end the week with fewer frayed edges. You will feed yourself and someone else, and both of you will sleep. Call that wealth. It builds foundations into which surplus can settle later without cracking the floor. Before bed, return to breath like a familiar street. Inhale as if you are drawing in the day's harvest. Exhale as if you are mailing it to a safe address. If thoughts gather at the curb, let them. You have taught them where the mailbox is. They will go there without you. You are not abandoning anything. You are letting the night crew work. If dreams bring old rooms, flickering and loud, remember, you wake up in a different house now. There are labels on the shelves, and the light switches work. You have neighbors you can wave to, skills you can lean on, a calendar that calls you by a softer name. The past can knock, it cannot collect. Tomorrow, you will choose again. Not perfectly, just consistently enough that pathways brighten and detours grow over with grass. Your attention will find what you trained it to love: honest numbers, clear edges, hours with air in them, work that returns more than it takes. Giving that doesn't hollow you out. The river will keep moving. You will keep it clean. Now let the jaw unclench, the eyes grow heavy, the breath flatten into the wide plain of sleep. Somewhere inside, the small lighthouse turns one last time and pauses, its beam at rest. The coastline held in memory. The tide slips out, then in exactly as it always has, exactly as it always will. And you, the keeper of quiet rhythms, rest while your future begins building another tiny bridge, plank by plank, in the dark. Somewhere before dawn, your nervous system performs its quiet audit. It listens for alarms, for debts of attention, for open loops that tug at the edge of sleep. When it finds fewer than before, it takes note. Safety, it whispers to itself, is not the absence of challenge. Safety is the presence of capacity. With that message, new circuits greenlight growth. You do not feel the switch flip, but you live the effects. Mornings that begin with a steadier horizon. Choices that land without splash. Hours that stretch. When the room lightens, meet the day like you'd greet a coworker you respect. Nod, breathe. Set the first frame. Not goals, just the opening scene. One sentence is enough. Today I will move one thing forward that moves many things. Then let your eyes fall on what is already prepared. The note you left last night, the file named in plain words, the page marked with the next small step. Momentum doesn't begin with effort. It begins with reduced friction. If the mind reaches for what ifs, give it a rope it can hold. Trace a line from now to one clear outcome and narrate it like weather. At 10, I finish the proposal. At noon, it is sent. By late afternoon, it no longer lives in my head. Your physiology will relax at the promise of an ending. Loose ends are expensive. Closures return credit to your attention. Let the first money touch be gentle. 10 minutes with the map, not an hour with the fog. Open the accounts like windows. Glance at the air, not for judgment. For direction, if a number contracts your chest, write down what it is asking for without adjectives. A late invoice is not immoral. It is a request for a nudge. A higher bill is not a verdict. It is a prompt to renegotiate, switch, or briefly tighten. When you strip language of heat, actions appear that were hiding behind the steam. Carry a small pause into every exchange that involves value. It can be a breath, a sip, a silent count to 3. Scarcity urges speed. Abundance tolerates a beat. In that beat lies discernment. You remember to ask, what is the true cost here? Time, energy, attention, trust. Money translates these, but does not replace them. A cheap thing that fractures your focus is expensive. A costly thing that keeps returning time arrives with a discount your spreadsheet cannot show. If comparison bites, let it, then ask it to show its work. What evidence did it ignore? The season you're in, the constraints you honor, the margins you protect. You do not need to win the race. You are not running. You need to arrive intact at the finish that matters to the people who matter. Your nervous system will prioritize the score you watch. Watch something generous, hours with margin, relationships unstrained, promises kept, craft improved. Let that scoreboard set the game. Midday, give your attention a place to rest. That isn't a screen. Look at something far, then near. Let your eyes change depth the way you let your life change scale. Wealth is a zoom lens. It invites you to move between horizons without losing the plot. 1 hour, you are inside a cell of detail, aligning numbers and names. The next, you are above the page, asking whether the whole chapter still serves the book you mean to write. Both views are true. The muscle is the motion between them. There will be a conversation with money you do not feel ready to have. Begin it anyway, halfway. Here's what I can do today. Here's what I can do next Friday. Here's what I will not be able to do. Money respects clarity more than charisma. It also respects silence. Say what is enough and stop. Let the other side speak. Good agreements are built from sentences with air in them. When you sit back down to make or serve or solve, imagine the one person on the other end. Not a market, a person, a mind, a body, a schedule, a hope. If your work makes their day 10 minutes longer on the inside, you have created surplus that matters. That kind returns. It tells your brain the truth about revenue. It is gratitude quantified. This story is not sentimental. It is functional. Gratitude in, trust out. Trust in, referrals out. Marketing costs down. The math and the meaning shake hands. If fatigue arrives, treat it as a gauge, not a flaw. You do not pour from a cup. You pour from a well. Wells do not refill by shame. They refill by rain, time, shade, and maintenance. Rest is not an interruption to wealth building. Rest is how your prefrontal cortex keeps the keys to the car. Sleep consolidates skill. Pauses consolidate identity. Without both, you pay a hidden tax, rushed mistakes, brittle tone, decisions that cost double to unwind. Toward afternoon, invite a brief audit of friction. Where did you hesitate? Where did the day snag? Name one friction you can remove with a tweak, not a project, a template, a shortcut, a canned reply with warmth, a checklist that lives where the task begins instead of where it ends. Every small reduction compounds because it is used repeatedly. Compounding is not reserved for banks. It lives in your systems too. If you lead others, let your abundance be contagious at the level of process, not posture. Share the math behind a decision. Teach the pause before the yes. Model a humane boundary at the busiest hour. Tell them when you're wrong and how you're correcting. People who trust leadership spend less time bracing and more time building. That time flows into the work you all share. Culture is a balance sheet written in cortisol. At dusk, practice receipt of good, not the loud winds. Those will find you, but the quiet ones that scarcity can't see. The thing that broke and did not ruin anything. The child who asked for your attention and got it. The customer who didn't press because your process prevented the press. The meal you ate without performance. Name them softly. You are training the part of your brain that decides whether effort is rewarded. When that part believes you, it volunteers more focus tomorrow for a lower price. If you carry debt, treat it as a staircase, not a pit. Each payment is a step up into different air. You are not waiting to be worthy at the top, you are getting stronger on the way. Build a handrail automatic transfers that happen whether you feel like them or not. Build landings, moments where you do not increase payments, but you do not miss them. Look up only often enough to remember why you're climbing. Cervical spines were not designed for shame. Grow your skills like you'd grow a small orchard. A few trees you tend year after year, resistant to weather feeding you through seasons. Skills that make money when you are present. Skills that protect money when you are not. Skills that reduce dependence on any one platform, client, or manager. Each hour invested here is equity in yourself, not least competence. As with trees, the early years are slower than your impatience and faster than your fear admits. Then one day you have shade you did not have to ask permission to sit in. Let generosity remain ritual. Set aside a percent that feels sincere in this season and give it where you can see the face it touches. This is not a performance. It is alignment practice. Scarcity says, when I have more, I will give. Abundance says, giving is one way I remember I have enough. Enough is a number, yes, but it is also a posture. A way your shoulders sit, a way your hand loosens on the wheel, a way your voice doesn't hurry in a room that wants tempo more than truth. Notice where technology speeds you past wisdom. A one click. By that bypasses your pause, a notification that recruits your fear. A feed that replaces action with watching others act. Tools are levers. Levers need fulcrums. Place your fulcrums first. Time boundaries. Do not disturb windows. Not the minute urgency begs. Every time you place the fulcrum, the lever becomes yours again. If you are building something new, let it be small and real before it is big and clean. A scrappy pilot that delivers value is wealthier than a perfect plan that never meets a wallet. Start where the paperwork is light and the learning is heavy. Document as you go. What confused people? What delighted them? What did they ask for that you did not expect? Your second version should be a response, not a guess. When conflict arrives around money, and it will, let your nervous system go first. Breathe until your voice drops a note. Name the shared goal. We both want this to feel fair and clear. Then separate the tangle into strands, facts, feelings, and fixes. Facts belong on paper. Feelings belong in the air, acknowledged, not argued. Fixes belong on a timeline. This is not therapy. It is craftsmanship under pressure. You will leave the table not only with numbers that work, but with a relationship that can bear weight again. As evening leans in, sweep the day for open loops. Close the ones that take 1 minute. Park the ones that need more with a sentence that tells tomorrow where to begin. Then, honor a threshold. A light you switch off, a line you speak. Work is closed. Life is here. The brain respects ceremonies you repeat. Give it endings, so it can give you beginnings. If your mind tries to rehearse fear before bed, hand it a different script. Rehearsal of competence. Remember, vividly, the time you handled something tricky with steadiness. Where were your hands? What did your face do? How did your feet feel on the ground? Replay it once, twice. You are telling your amygdala the cast has done this show. Fear will still audition. It may not get the part. And then, the dark again, the tide. Again, the small teams inside you take over. Glia housekeeping, synapse pruning, memory filing, hormone repairing. Let them work without your commentary. You have left them clear notes. They will leave you clearer pathways. Somewhere in that quiet, abundance inches, closer to ordinary. Not a spike, not a headline, but a new default. Fewer jolts, cleaner lines. You wake not rich in spectacle, but rich in reliability. The kind of wealth that children notice without knowing they're noticing. The kind that coworkers trust without asking why. The kind that lets you be more yourself in rooms that once trimmed your edges. You keep going. Not because the game demands it, but because the practice has become its own reward. You keep the lamp turning. You keep promises proportionate to your season. You keep a little slack in the rope. And the brain, grateful for the simplicity, keeps doing what it has always done when given honest inputs and humane rhythms. It rewires toward what is repeated. It repeats what is rewarded. And it rewards what returns peace. There will be days when the numbers don't cooperate, when a plan that looked crisp on Sunday frays by Thursday. Let those days be information, not indictment. Your nervous system is a prediction machine. When it encounters surprise, it sends you a storm to keep you safe. The storm is not an order. It is an invitation to narrow your window, shorten your horizon, and return to levers you can actually pull. A glass of water. 3 long exhales. 1 email that reduces friction by half. When your body feels a door you can open, it stops trying to kick down the wall. Treat scarcity like a smoke alarm. When it blares, you don't argue with the noise. You move toward fresh air and check the kitchen. Fresh air looks like data you can trust. Open the dashboard you avoid, but only for a single question. What needs attention the next 7 days? The kitchen is where heat gathers. Subscriptions, renewals, drifting expenses. A client you keep rescuing. Turn 1 knob down. You have cooled the room by a degree you can feel. Make room for a quiet weekly money date. Not punishment, not penance. Companionship. Light a candle if you like, or just give the work 10 protected minutes when you still have attention to give it. You reconcile what cleared, you nudge what's late. You move a tiny sum into an account with a name that makes you smile. Opportunity. Sabbatical. Quit. Quietly fund. If that's what makes you brave, names matter. They tell your brain what it is saving for. When your brain sees a story, it stops hoarding and starts planning. Hold 2 numbers for this season, a floor and a ceiling. The floor is what you can keep even on a bad week. Your minimum savings transfer, your minimum outreach, your minimum walk. The ceiling protects you from turning a good day into burnout. How many meetings before your voice goes brittle? How much caffeine before your sleep goes thin? How many hours you'll let a launch borrow from your evening before you invoice your body with a headache? Floors build momentum. Ceilings preserve it. If windfalls arrive, and they will, because you are building a life that invites them, meet them with a protocol you wrote when your pulse was calm. A percentage to future. You. A percentage to present relief. A percentage to something beautiful you can point to later when your brain tries to forget good things happen. Take a photo of that beauty, even if it's a plant in the window. Evidence is a kind of interest. It compounds your trust in your own stewardship. Skill is the truest diversification. Each month, adopt one small upgrade that permanently lowers the cost of doing your work. A keyboard shortcut you finally memorize. A template you design once and reuse forever. A paragraph that explains your pricing so clearly you never have to defend it. Pair each skill with a minute of celebration, even if it's just a grin in the kitchen. Dopamine is not frivolous. It's a memo to your basal ganglia that says, do more of this. It pays. Notice the places where you barter your attention for the illusion of closeness to money. Endless scrolling of other people's wins. News that spikes cortisol without increasing agency. Replace one of those loops with a loop that returns cash or calm. Send one follow. Ship one tiny deliverable. Archive one folder. You'll never use? Your brain rewards closure more than consumption. You will feel it as a slackening in the jaw. Negotiation, when it comes, likes a narrative with timestamps. Start drafting it now, quietly, in a file you'll keep open. One paragraph per outcome. The friction that existed, the action you took, the outcome in plain math, revenue up. Churn down, hours saved, errors prevented. Add a single sentence about the human result. Customer support now closes by 5 p.m. most days. The team leaves earlier on Fridays. Humans pay humans. Numbers are how we keep score. Bring both to the table with a tone that assumes partnership. Here's what I'm seeing. Here's how we can value it together. When you pay yourself, do it first and do it visibly. Even if the amount is small, the order teaches your brain that you are not an afterthought in your own enterprise. When you pay others, do it on the day you promised and tell them that you noticed the work. Generosity measured is generosity multiplied. People deliver their best to the balance sheet that treats them like cothers, not cogs. Design one failure budget for experiments. A number you can afford to lose each quarter without denting your safety. Spend it on prototypes, courses, ads, odd little bets. The point isn't to win every time. It's to keep the part of you that explores from starving. Exploration feeds the pipeline you won't need. For months, the investment will look wasteful to people who only read this month's ledger. You are building a life that reads the year. Guard your mornings like an asset. If you must meet early, let it be with yourself. 10 minutes of writing in words you'd be proud to have someone you love over here. Today I will make a bridge between two people who need each other. Today I will take a 90-minute swing at the problem I've been orbiting. Ambition is loud on the internet. It is quiet on the calendar. Put it there, brief and money touch. When something ends, a version of you that fit in a smaller life. Let the ledger reflect the loss. Lighten your load for a month. Order fewer obligations. Keep the savings automation. Yes, but lower something else so your nervous system knows you heard it. Hustle will try to cover grief. Grief will leak into your hustle anyway. Better to honor it openly and let it pass through than to let it calcify into resentment. That makes every invoice feel heavy. Build a tiny emergency manual for the next wobble. One printed page, taped inside a cupboard. 3 people you can text when you are tempted to catastrophize alone. 3 bills you can pause. 3 ways to bring in a quick 100 without injuring your future. 3 sentences you speak to yourself because they are true, even when panic argues. We have survived worse. The number is smaller than the skill. I don't have to solve this at night. Mentorship is the speed of money. Seek someone 2 steps ahead and someone 2 steps behind. The first compresses your learning curve. The second consolidates your mastery. Explain what you know in simple language. You'll discover what you actually know. Pay the first mentor with dollars or introductions or crisp testimonials. Pay the second with kindness, templates, and the reminder that nobody starts at the middle. Your environment is a balance sheet your brain reads without words. Clear the first sightline you see when you sit down to work. If you cannot organize a whole room, curate a single tray. The tools you reach for most, nothing more. Decision fatigue is a leak. Every plug you place returns water to the river. The same is true of your digital landscape. Stop burying the files you use every day. Put them where your future self would look first. Money talks will happen at kitchen tables. Bring warmth, but bring clarity. Say numbers out loud. This is the income. This is the buffer. This is the timeline for the vacation and for the roof. Name the worry floating between you both before it starts eroding trust. I'm afraid we'll get surprised and turn on each other. I want to prevent that. Then assign the smallest possible task to the person best suited for it. Invisible labor is a silent tax. Talking about it collects a refund. If you're self-employed, remember you wear two hats, worker and owner. The worker needs guardrails, hours, breaks, compliments. The owner needs forecasts, line of sight to 3 months of runway, a simple plan for drought, a simple plan for flood. When you confuse the hats, you either pamper yourself into a corner or grind yourself into dust. Switch hats on purpose. You will make better calls and sleep better after. Joy prints differently on paper than on skin. Let some purchases be irrational on purpose within a boundary you set when you were calm. A bouquet in the middle of an odd week, a coffee you take to a park, a book you don't need. Pleasure without permission retrains a scarcity. Bruised brain to believe good can be ordinary. Ordinary good is the soil where long games grow. Teach your body what enough feels like. Not just what it looks like in a spreadsheet. Enough feels like a jaw that unlocks in the evening. It feels like a conversation you do not rush. It feels like a grocery trip without mental arithmetic at the register. It feels like the ability to say, not this month, without spiraling. When your body learns the shape of enough, it helps you steer toward it. The receipts will follow when the week closes. Leave a breadcrumb trail for Monday. One email drafted and saved. One sticky note with the first verb circled. One open tab you actually need. Then close everything else. The brain loves to chew on open loops. Give it something gentle to chew instead. A walk without your phone. A recipe you've made so many times the hands do it without the head. A shower where the hot water is permission, not reward. And then return, again, to sleep as strategy, not luxury. Darkness is a dividend. When you treat bedtime like an appointment with your future margins, the body cooperates. Dim one lamp an hour earlier. Leave tomorrow's clothes and kindness on the chair. Tuck your worries into a page that begins. You don't need me tonight. I will return to you at 10 tomorrow, and we will do the next right thing. Brains like schedules. Fear respects office hours. You are not chasing a finish line. You are maintaining a rhythm. Rhythm sustains what spurts cannot. You will miss steps, and then you will hear the beat again. That hearing is wealth. It means you have built a life loud enough with purpose and quiet enough with space that you can find your way back without burning the map. Keep the instruments tuned. Your boundaries, your books, your people. Keep the melody simple. Earn with care. Spend with intention. Save with affection for future. You give with joy. One morning, not too far from now, you will realize your nervous system flinches less when money is mentioned. Someone will say invoice, and your chest will stay open. Someone will ask how much, and you will answer with a number that respects the work and the season. You will check the account and see not just digits, but the story they tell. A person who learned to match their calendar to their values. A person who kept promises small enough to keep and big enough to matter. A person who understands that abundance is not an event, but a practice. And you will continue. Not because you are scared to stop, but because each repetition reinforces a truth you now trust in your bones. The brain becomes what you rehearse. The life becomes what you repeat. And wealth, real, usable, humane wealth, is the residue of thousands of small, kind choices made on days both easy and hard. Let yourself believe that comfort is not the enemy of growth. The culture will try to sell you panic as a strategy, as if the only way to move is to sprint with a stone in your shoe. You are learning a different rhythm, steady, spacious, a little boring on purpose. Boring is where compounding hides. You won't always see it day to day, but in a season you will look back and notice that your baseline shifted. What once felt sharp now feels manageable. What once required courage now fits in your morning. Compounding doesn't belong only to money. It belongs to your nervous system. Every time you practice the smaller, kinder version of a hard thing, your brain prunes the panic path and thickens the path of ease. The reticular system in your head starts filtering for what helps. Clean inputs, clear tasks, true signals. Sleep becomes a collaborator. The glial wash at night carries away the residue of strain and leaves the circuits a little smoother for tomorrow. You don't have to feel different to be changing. Most rewiring happens quietly. If you invest, let it be an extension of this temperament. Favor vehicles you can explain to a friend without raising your voice. Favor rules you can keep on a rainy day. Favor the plan that survives your least disciplined week. When the market tries to make your heart the decision center, hand the wheel back to the calendar. Contributions on the day, you said. Rebalancing when the month reminds you. Exit criteria, written in calm and followed in weather. Wealth grows best when you resist turning every headline into a thesis and every dip into a confession. Debt, if it's here, does not make you a moral story. It is a set of agreements that can be renegotiated by time, by order, by strategy. Pick an approach that rewards your particular psychology. If small wins keep you moving, let the snowball roll. If interest offends your sense of efficiency, melt the avalanche first. Either way, celebrate principal shrinking like a pair of shoes you finally outgrow. Call your progress by name. We turn to page this month. Insurance is a quiet love letter you write to the people who would have to be brave on your behalf. A will is not a superstition, it is a kindness. Name beneficiaries. Not just for assets, but for the small things that carry meaning. Journals, photos, the recipe box. Relief is wealth. Give it to future you and to the ones who love you. If you lead, remember the balance sheet. You publish is only half the story. The other half is the climate people breathe while they create value with you. Pay on time. Praise in detail. Protect focus like a rare mineral. When you launch, let the win be shared. When you miss, let the learning be shared. People compound faster than capital when safety and standards travel together. There will be temptations dressed as opportunities. The partnership that needs you to ignore your gut. The client who wants a discount and your dignity. The platform that demands daily presence while giving little back. Optionality is wealth. Guard it. Each no you practice becomes a fence around the garden where yes can flourish. Your future self is counting on the room you keep. Let price be a boundary, not a plea. You are not pricing your worth. You are pricing an outcome. Anchor it in the value you can defend with receipts. Time saved. Errors prevented. Revenue unlocked. Relief delivered. Say the number clean, then stop talking. Silence is not rudeness. It is respect for the person deciding. They will tell you what matters. Listen for the constraint beneath the question and solve that, or step aside, so both of you can win elsewhere. If you sell, design your offers like steps, not cliffs. A conversation that begins free should have a doorway into paid without acrobatics. A starter solves one pain and proves your method. A core offer delivers the transformation without drama. A premium version protects urgency and intimacy for the people who need both. You do not need 50 products. You need a path that helps someone go from friction to flow without getting lost. Track your energy next to your revenue for a month. Notice which work leaves you clearer than it found you and which work taxes you even when it pays. Where there is both money and lightness, plant more. Where there is money and drag, raise the price until it funds the recovery, or retire the offer with gratitude. Where there is lightness and little money, ask whether it feeds another line on your balance sheet. Reputation, relationships, reach. If it does, keep a small version. If it doesn't, love it as a hobby. Alignment pays interest. Generosity is not a line item you justify after everything else. It is part of the engine. Give in ways that you can sustain without resentment. Give where you can measure the human effect, even if only by a message that says, "I slept better because of this." Your brain will file that proof and loosen its grip on the story that there is never enough. Abundance rehearsed becomes abundance believed. Believed, it becomes behavior. Comparison will keep trying to rent space in your head at premium rates. It will arrive with glossy proof that someone else is farther, faster, better. Remember that timelines are custom builds. You don't know their overhead. You don't know their nervous system. You don't know what they traded. Return to your ledger. Did you keep your floors? Did you honor your ceilings? Did you make a dent in the thing you said mattered? That is the only scoreboard you can play to without losing the game. When you feel stuck, shrink the unit of progress and expand the unit of kindness. Reply to the oldest unanswered note. File the receipts in a single folder without the ceremony of categories. Send 2 lines to a past client, asking what result still holds. Move $10 to a named account and remind your brain that saving is an action, not a personality type. Every stuckness is a pile of avoided tiny things. Unpile one, then another. Momentum is just movement with a memory. Teach your tools to carry more of the load. Automate the transfers that keep you safe. Template the phrases that make people feel seen. Record a loom for a question you answer monthly and send it with warmth. Pre-write the boundaries you fumble when you're tired. Office hours, revision limits, response time, and pace them before fatigue makes you generous in a way that hurts tomorrow. If a season demands sprinting, let the calendar show the recovery baked in. Bodies collect interest on unpaid rest, and the rate is not favorable. Plan the downshift while you are still strong. Put a week on the other side of the launch where outcomes can settle and your nervous system can too. Protect one day in the sprint where you move your body without metrics. Success that requires amnesia about what it cost is too expensive. Document what you do while you do it. 2 screens, one for the work, one for the words. Here's how we ran this campaign. Here's how we onboarded with dignity. Here's how we salvaged a wobble. Turn process into assets you can teach, license, or hand to a future teammate. Proprietary is just the ordinary done consistently and written clearly. Write it now while the steps still taste like the day. Money likes weatherproofing. Build your barbell. Most of your capital quiet and broad. A small sliver for asymmetric bets that can go to zero without taking you with them. Most of your week in reliable creation and delivery. A small sliver in experiments that might open the next chapter. Safety and upside do not have to compete when you seat them at different tables. Remember the forms of wealth that don't sit in accounts. A Tuesday afternoon you can spend with a person you love without asking permission. A spine that doesn't bark at the end of the day. A name that opens rooms because you kept confidences and promises. A skill you can carry anywhere, even if the scenery changes. The ability to choose boredom when everyone else is chasing fireworks. These are balances you can check in the mirror. If fear insists on a story, offer it one that is true. You come from people who figured things out. You have survived surprises that did not give you a calendar invite. You have built from smaller piles. You are not alone in this, even when it feels like you are stewarding the whole sky. Look for a piece of blue. Email a friend with a single sentence. Would you witness me do the next brave thing? Witness is an accelerant. Shame can't breathe in its presence. At night, let your mind rehearse what you want repeated. 1 minute of gratitude with numbers. We covered rent. We paid the invoice early. We funded future. US by $80. 1 minute of vision grounded in verbs. Tomorrow, you'll outline. Record, send. 1 minute of release. The rest can wait, because I'm a better builder when I'm rested. This is not magical thinking. It is maintenance. Neurons that fire together, wire together. You are teaching them where to spark. And if, oh what? If arrives with sharp teeth, Give it a job it can do while you sleep. List 3 ways this could be 10% easier. You tell the dreaming brain. Find me one person who has done this with gentleness. You'd be surprised how often morning brings an answer that feels like grace disguised as a mundane idea. You are allowed to grow slowly. To be a little dull in the service of something durable. You are allowed to want more without despising what you have. You are allowed to be the person who stabilizes first and scales second. You are allowed to be new at this for as long as it takes to become steady. The world will try to speed you up. Your work is to move at the pace that keeps you brave. Keep going. Keep it simple. The brain will follow the path you light. The money will follow the work you finish. The life will follow the promises you keep. And tomorrow, when you sit down, the chair will remember you. The page will meet you halfway, and the numbers will read like what they have always been. Just words written in math, telling the story of a person who decided to build with care. When doubt shows up in your numbers, don't argue with it. Sit beside it and ask what story the ledger is trying to tell. Revenue is a line with a voice, but so are refunds, churn, and the quiet column named timing. Profit is not a personality trait. Cash is not a compliment. They are rhythms. If you listen long enough, you can hear when a month is singing or when it's clearing its throat. You learn which weeks ask for patience and which weeks are asking you to fix a leaky bucket, not pour a bigger one. Treat your calendar like a mirror that tells the truth about what you value. It will always feel like a guest you're scrambling to entertain. Give it a key, a morning where you reconcile, an afternoon where you design offers, a Friday where you write to the people who said maybe later. Protect those hours the way you protect sleep. Others can be flexible. These are how you keep your promises to your future. It helps to know you're enough, not as a vague comfort, but as a number that pays for a life that fits and lights you up without fraying your edges. Enough is not a ceiling, it's a shoreline. From there, you can sail for more with steadier hands. When the world waves its jackpots, you won't confuse someone else's appetite with your own. You'll recognize the moment you've crossed from nourishing growth into growth that needs you to forget yourself to be fed. Downturns will come like winter, whether you enjoy the season or not. Have a quiet plan that already knows what to do when the wind changes. Trim experiments without starving momentum. Pause expansions that cost attention you'll need for core work. Lengthen your runway with simple, reversible moves. Reach out before you have to. Suppliers and clients are most generous with people who kept them informed when skies were blue. You cannot control the weather, but you can choose your coat and companions. If you notice you're staying in a project because of what you've already spent, step gently away from the door and face the horizon. Sunk costs don't make a future. Your brain is trying to be loyal to an earlier version of you who made the best call they could with the information they had. Thank them for getting you here. Then let this version of you choose again with better data and a clearer nervous system. Permission is wealth in action. Negotiation is not combat, it's alignment. When a number arrives that feels small, breathe first. Ask what outcome they most care about and what would make this a decision they can defend to their future self. Share how you measure the change you make. Leave room for silence, so the truth can step forward. If it's still not a fit, let your no be a bridge, not a wall, a referral, a scaled. Back scope, a date on the calendar to revisit when timing and budget can meet each other with dignity. Walking away clean protects both reputations, including your own, in the mirror. If you share a life with someone, let money be a team sport without turning love into a spreadsheet. Agree on the map, even if you take different roads. One of you may love dashboards and the other may love envelopes. It's fine. What matters is the cadence of conversation and the feeling that both voices are heard. Ask each other what money felt like at 10 years old and at 20. Context softens conflict. Build a weekly ritual that lasts 15 minutes and ends with a small win. An automated transfer, a bill scheduled, a thank you sent to the person who referred you last month. Intimacy grows where overwhelm shrinks. Higher when repeating yourself begins to cost more than it protects. Training is slow at first by design. You are turning intuition into instructions, so that a part of your brain can be rented by someone else's hands. Document while you teach. Praise the outcome and the path. Correct the process, not the person. Here's how we do it, and here's why it saves a headache later. People stay in places where their growth is named, and their time is not treated like a sponge. Hold your ethics like compass points, not decorations. Money made with shortcuts drags a weight behind it. Money that preserves consent, clarity, and fair exchange travels light. Say where your data goes. Say what your guarantee means. Say who your work is not for. Leaving the wrong person better off because you told them no is a quiet kind of profit that returns in ways you won't always be able to trace. But you will feel them when you need them most. Increase your surface area for luck by becoming easy to find and easy to help. Publish what you're learning while it's still warm. Make your ask specific and your thanks immediate. Keep a visible backlog of interesting questions you're working on. Collaborators are drawn to unfinished symphonies. Show your work where your people actually hang out, not where an algorithm scolds you. A single true sentence can open a door 1,000 posts could not. Put your attention on a diet that feeds you more than it frays you. Your brain is a garden, and your feed is a seed packet. If your inputs leave you jittery and brittle, you will solve for the wrong problems with the wrong speed. Curate mentors who are building with values that rhyme with yours. Swap endless opinions for a handful of practitioners you can learn from by imitation. When you catch yourself scrolling, replace the motion with a micro. Build a paragraph for your sales page, a canned response that buys you an hour next month, a note to a client about a win they haven't noticed yet. Design your mornings to make decisions once. Lay out the first move the night before in a sentence that begins with a verb. Draft the opener for the case study. Email Maya with the timeline. Record the 3-minute walkthrough. Inertia's a door. Verbs are handles. Reduce the number of times you ask yourself what next. The brain loves certainty so much, it will manufacture it through avoidance if you don't offer it through structure. Rehearse resilience in low stakes so it's ready for high stakes. Practice asking for a deadline extension before you need one. Practice renegotiating scope when the goal shape shifts. Practice refunding with kindness that turns a misfit into an advocate. The nervous system learns through experience. Give it small reps so it recognizes the terrain when the hills are steeper. If you carry money stories that ache, maybe scarcity dressed as responsibility, maybe abundance dressed as guilt. Let them be heard without letting them drive. Write the story in the third person, like a fable you inherited. Then write a new paragraph in the same voice with a different ending, the one where prudence and generosity keep each other company, where diligence and delight sit at the same table. Neural pathways don't erase, they get outcompeted. You aren't deleting a belief, you're giving the better one more chances to speak. There is a flavor of risk that tastes like waking up, and another that tastes like running away. Learn the difference in your body. The first brings a nervous brightness and ideas that multiply when shared. The second brings justification that needs an audience and plans that only survive in secrecy. Bet on the first, let the second pass. Not all momentum is movement, and not all velocity is victory. Build slack into everything you construct. Offers with room for a week that goes sideways. Timelines that expect humans, not robots. Budgets with lines named unexpected that are expected. Slack is not waste, it's shock absorption. It is how you keep excellence from turning into injury, how you protect your name when variables misbehave. When you hit a milestone, first 10 clients, first debt, free month, first time paying yourself the number you whispered. Pause long enough to let your brain register the win. Name what behaviors produced it. Place a marker you can see. A photo, a note, a tiny trophy on your desk. The mind forgets victories faster than problems. You are allowed to remind it. Gratitude that is measured turns into confidence that is earned. Make room for apprenticeship, both directions. Find someone ahead whose questions sharpen yours. Find someone behind who benefits from your breadcrumbs. Teaching metabolizes knowledge into wisdom. It also increases your patience with yourself. You cannot call someone else into gentler excellence without practicing it in your own head first. Your offers will age. Let them. Sunday. Set with ceremony. Archive the page. Write a letter to the work about what it taught you and who it served. Then point your audience to the next thing with the same steadiness you used to deliver the last. Reinvention is not betrayal. It is maintenance for a living business. The tree that keeps its leaves forever stops growing. Keep a small joy fund that's labeled in guilt. Proof. It doesn't have to be large to be potent. A book on release day. A dinner that makes a Tuesday feel like a holiday. A donation that turns your values into someone else's relief. Pleasure teaches your nervous system that safety isn't only the absence of threat, it's the presence of delight. Safe brains take braver, wiser bets. On the days when you want to burn it down, change rooms before you change destinies. Walk, water a plant. Answer the smallest helpful email you can find. Then ask yourself if you're tired, hungry, undersunned, or overdue for laughter. Prepare those first, most existential crises are poorly disguised maintenance tickets. Fix what's simple, and the complex will often reveal a simpler shape. As evening folds around you, remember that rest is not the opposite of effort. It is the partner that lets effort matter. The day's small, unfancy obediences can travel into sleep and keep working without you. Circuits will smooth. Ideas will sort themselves by weight. Tomorrow's courage is being minted quietly while you practice being a person who can stop. You do not need to watch the kettle to know the water will boil. You do not have to supervise abundance to let it grow. Breathe. Name one thing that is better than it was. Name one thing that is the same and still okay. Name one thing you're willing to do gently when morning returns. Let that be enough for now. The brain is listening. The future is listening. Both are taking notes from the calm you are rehearsing. Let your choices be shaped by identity before they're guided by tactics. When you say, "I'm the kind of person who ships calmly and learns quickly," the budget, the calendar, and the offer rearrange themselves to cooperate. Identity is a thermostat. Set it gently a few degrees warmer, and the room of your life adjusts. You no longer negotiate with every micro decision. You simply act in character. Price is a story about the problem you solve and the promise you can keep. It is not a verdict on your worth. When the number in your proposal rises, breathe. Ask if the scope, the stakes, and the stewardship have risen alongside it. If yes, the figure is a boundary that protects both sides. If no, edit the promise before you edit the price. Money loves clarity. Turn your work into assets that move while you rest. A single helpful page can teach thousands without your presence. A patient tutorial can introduce you to people while you make tea. The artifact economy rewards makers who leave breadcrumbs that time can find. Let your library compound. Polished once, paid many times is not greed. It's good architecture for a nervous system that wants to do excellent work without living at the edge of its capacity. When risk knocks, invite it in, but seat it near a window. Take asymmetric bets were the worst. Case is survivable and the best. Case changes your life. Keep the experiments small enough to learn from and large enough to feel. Barbell your efforts. On one side, the steady, proven core. On the other, the playful frontier. Stability makes curiosity brave. Curiosity keeps stability awake. Give yourself a learning stipend with a name and a date. Books, workshops, quiet rooms with smart people. Education that isn't scheduled becomes entertainment. Schedule it. Put one insight to work within 48 hours. So the lesson lands. Knowledge that does not touch behavior drifts into trivia. You are collecting tools, not trading cards. Build anti-fragility by rehearsing small shocks you can choose. Ship an imperfect draft to a friendly audience. Ask for a stretch rate with a client who respects you. Host a tiny event that might be awkward before you host a big one that might be empty. Systems get stronger when they meet resistance they can recover from. Muscle knows this. Money does too. Protect your time with a yes budget and a no budget. Decide in advance how many nice haves you can accept this month and how many not. For US, right. Now you will deliver cleanly. Boundaries spoken early feel like kindness. Boundaries spoken late sound like punishment. The wall you build today saves someone's feelings tomorrow, including yours. Remember that cheap can be the most expensive path. Opportunity cost is a bill that arrives with interest. Underpaying for critical work often purchases delays, repairs, and resentment. Overpaying for status purchases stories you can't deposit. Pay fairly for outcomes, not optics. Ask how the value will show up in your calendar, your numbers, and your sigh of relief. Choose pace like you. Choose shoes for the terrain ahead, not the sprint you wish you were running. Slow is smooth. Smooth is fast. Fast is profitable when you don't have to circle back. Goals are destinations. Systems are vehicles. Tune the vehicle. Weekly planning that fits on one page. Daily focus that fits on one line. Let the engine idle quietly instead of redlining loudly. Measure what moves before you measure what moved. Leading indicators are the small handles you can actually pull. Outreach sent. Demos scheduled. Drafts completed. Follow. Ups delivered with grace. Lagging indicators. Revenue. Profit. Followers. Arrive on their own schedule. Build a simple scoreboard you can praise daily. Winning little is how you win long. Markets breathe. Inhale during quiet seasons by building depth, case studies, internal tooling, relationships that outlast trends. Exhale during busy seasons by harvesting. Launch what you prepared. Raise prices to respect demand. Say no to the wrong yeses. You are not late if you are aligned with the season you are in. You are on time if you are honest about it. Treat wealth as a balance sheet with more rows than dollars. Reputation is an asset that compounds fastest when you protect it at short term cost. Optionality is an asset that pays in calm. It grows when your expenses are lower than your courage. Relationships are an asset that pays in introductions when you become the person who introduces. Skills are an asset that never devalues. They appreciate each time you teach them. Health is the asset that multiplies every other cell in the spreadsheet. Practice the calm dichotomy of control. You cannot command virality, market cycles, or other people's urgency. You can command inputs, standards, and your response speed. Put your attention where your agency lives. If an outcome depends on someone else's yes, double your invites and have your expectations. The math of disappointment improves quickly under that rule. Make generosity a skill, not a surprise. Give in ways that don't turn your month into a gamble. Automate a baseline gift so your values move even when you're busy. Keep a tiny, flexible pot for delight. Tips, waivers, scholarships. So you can say yes to moments that feel like you without asking permission from a spreadsheet. Abundance arrives sooner to homes that practice letting it pass through. Automate good behavior. Default the transfers that make tomorrow grateful for today. Use friction to slow what hurts you and grease what helps you. Pause purchases for 24 hours. Pre-fill the actions you want to take. Most discipline is environment design pretending to be willpower. Rearrange the room and the person inside it changes. Write your instructions for a future you who loves clarity. A simple if-then note for your money. If revenue dips below X for 2 months, then pause experiments A and B and increase outreach to Y. A simple where to find list for the people who would handle things if you were on a plane without Y. 5 for a week. Estate planning sounds heavy. It is. But it is also a love letter disguised as logistics. Nurture your craft in public without turning your life into content. Share the slice that helps someone else take one step, not the slice that burns your privacy for applause. The audience you build by being useful is the same audience that will let you sell without feeling like you're shouting. Teach the thing you wish you'd known one project sooner. Design your offer so it can be bought by the person who needs it, not just admired by the person who can afford it. Clarity before cleverness, a promise you can measure, a path you can show, a finish line your client can recognize without you in the room pointing at it. Then make it easy to start. One link, one button, one next step. Friction is for skis, not sales. Keep wonder on payroll, not as a break from serious work, but as a catalyst for it. Curiosity prevents cynicism from calcifying into certainty. Go to the bookstore without a shopping list. Attend a lecture outside your lane. Ask a child how they would fix the thing you've been overcomplicating. Novel inputs become novel outputs, and novelty is often the parent of profit. When feedback arrives sharp, find the gift without swallowing the knife, separate tone from pattern. If 5 people you respect offer the same note, your work is trying to evolve. If one person shouts from the cheap seats, your boundary is trying to speak. Edit the product, not the spine. Make it better, not smaller. Carry a tiny failure ledger that reads like a scientist's notebook, not a prosecutor's file. Date, hypothesis, experiment, result, lesson. Next tweak. When the month ends, celebrate the best miss, the one that taught you the most for the least cost. Failure metabolized his tuition, failure hoarded his shame. Only one of those compounds. Treat email like a river, not a museum. You're allowed to let some things flow past. Build dams where needed. Filters, canned replies, office hours. The people who truly need you will appreciate the structure. The ones who preferred access over respect will select themselves out. Attention is your most valuable currency. Spend it where return is highest and regret is lowest. Hold a weekly closing ritual that fits on a napkin. What mattered? What moved? What needs a nudge? What can wait? Leave Monday a breadcrumb in a single sentence. So future, you can begin without rummaging, then close the tab called proving and open the window called being. Walk away before the day finishes you, and as you set the light lower, remember the quieter truth underneath all the tactics. The brain learns safety from repetition, dignity from boundaries, and abundance from evidence. You are giving it all 3. Let the proof collect. Let the noise receive. Let the work you've already done keep working while you don't. The night knows how to carry a good plan until morning. Leave a small light on in the mind, a pilot flame of intention, and let the rest of the switches go dark. The plan is written. The systems are planted. Nothing good requires you to hover over it through the night. Seeds do most of their changing underground. If worry knocks, give it a job so it stops pacing the hallway. Let it check the doors. The cash buffer is set, invoice is scheduled, outreach queued, calendar ring, fenced, learning hour booked. When each latch clicks, worry sits down. It wanted structure. Picture the assets you've built as shelves in a quiet library. They hold what you've learned, what you've made, what you've promised and kept. You don't need to reshelve every book to count the wealth. You just need to know where things live. That knowledge is safety disguised as order. Let your inner narrator swap genres from thriller to documentary. This isn't a cliffhanger. It's a process. Inputs lead to leads, leads lead to conversations, conversations lead to agreements, agreements lead to work, work leads to outcomes, outcomes become case studies become easier conversations. The wheel is not magic. It is round. You built it. If your brain hunts for loopholes, give it one. You're allowed to change your mind with data. That's the exit you need to stop reaching for exits. Tomorrow, you'll measure what moved, adjust what's sticky, and ignore what only shouts. Tonight you practice a smaller art, leaving the clay on the wheel and the hands at rest. Remember the texture of good decisions. They feel quiet in the body, even when they look bold on paper. You have a few of those cooling on the counter. Boundaries spoken early. One price raised to meet the real promise. One experiment small enough to survive. One page published that will shake hands while you sleep. This is how momentum whispers. Invite gentleness into the room where discipline usually sits alone. You do not have to earn rest by crossing a dramatic finish line. You earned it when you built a system that can still carry you if tomorrow begins at 70%. Sustainability is not a luxury. It is a profit lever that hides in your pulse. If a stray memory tugs, an awkward email, a number you wish were higher, label it correctly. Not a verdict, a waypoint. Notes for the scientist you are becoming. Put it where experiments live, not where identities do. You're allowed to be in progress while doing excellent work. That's the only kind of excellence that lasts. Let gratitude take a practical shape. Thank the people who made this easier, even if the thank you is a letter you'll send in the morning. Thank the earlier you who documented the steps. Thank the future you for showing up to act on the notes you are leaving now. Gratitude is not sentiment. It's glue for teams across time. When the mind wants to sprint, offer it a smaller race. 1. Slow breath down to the ribs. 1. Unclenching of the jaw. 1 scan for the place in your body that already feels okay. Abundance is not only a number. It is also an absence of hurry in a room with a plan. See your days as chapters in a book that rewards rereading. Every page contains the same few moves played with more care. Choose identity, shape environment, set constraints, ship, listen, rest. The plot twists are details. The craft is the point. Mastery is repetition that remembered to be kind. If comparison wanders in wearing urgency, let it sit but not speak. You don't know other people's debt loads, sleep totals, or silent costs. You know your ratios, your values, your next input. You win your game by playing it. You lose it by narrating someone else's highlight reel in your head. Dignify tomorrow's work by keeping tonight's promise. Close the loops that prevent deep rest. A single sentence breadcrumb for the morning. A calendar block that defends it. A reminder that nudges, not nags. Then close the laptop as an act of leadership, including the one inside you. Take cues from how the day ends. Let the room get a shade quieter. Hear the appliances hum, the window breathe, the fabric settle. This is what enough feels like when it isn't trying to impress you. Your nervous system learns from these small classes. It begins to pair progress with peace, effort with ease, money with meaning. Hold the simplest truth lightly. You don't need to feel certain to be on track. You need only to keep shaping the track so it keeps returning you to the work. The rest is noise with good lighting. The signal is boring on purpose. Boring is where compounding lives. And now, let the lights in the mind go out in an order you can trust. The shelf of numbers, the shelf of names, the shelf of decisions, each one dimmed by a switch, labeled handled for now. The pilot flame remains identity, posture, direction, steady and small. Sleep is not the absence of ambition. It is the soil that lets it grow straight. Close the day knowing you traded hours for assets, guesses for notes, urgency for rhythm. Close it knowing the room you wake into will be a degree warmer with evidence. Close it because you can. In the quiet that follows, imagine the library again, a door with your name, a light that knows when to rise, stacks arranged by care, not by chance. You step inside tomorrow, pull one book from one shelf, and begin where you left the ribbon. That is enough.